Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to see so many of you here in the room. I'm Siobhan Bonita. I'm a former UK civil servant myself, and on behalf of Global Government Forum, I'm really delighted to welcome you to Innovation 2024. It really does go without saying that the public sector, civil servants, are really facing unprecedented challenges at the moment. And in order to meet those challenges, we're going to have to increase the pace of innovation. I know there's a lot of innovation already going on, but we need even more of that. So hopefully, over the next 2 days, you can hear all about how we're innovating and new ways of innovating across lots of different areas. We have planned in the sessions over the next 2 days, lots of time for you to engage and interact. So you will hear from fantastic speakers that we've got from here in the UK and overseas, but we've left a lot of time for you to put your questions to our speakers. So please do take this opportunity to engage. Don't leave thinking, I wish I'd asked that question. I know it's a rare thing at the moment for you to get out of the office, whether you're here for 1 day or 2 days. So I hope that you learn a lot while you're here, but we also want you to have fun. So please do take this opportunity to connect with some new people, make some new connections, make some new friends while you're here as well. In a moment, I'm going to introduce our 3 speakers for this first session, but I also want to say a big thanks to our Global Platinum Knowledge Partner, EY, for all their fantastic support, and to all of our knowledge partners today. As you're seen as you came in, there's lots of people exhibiting. Please do, in the sessions, in your lunch break, in between the sessions, go around and see what everybody is talking about in our exhibition space. I'd also like to thank, you'll be hearing from him in a minute, but our fantastic champion, Alex Chisholm. Thank you for all of your personal support. And also thank you to everybody across His Majesty's, that still sounds sad, it's still not sad, it still sounds unusual to say His Majesty's government for all the support that we've had across all of the organisations and the departments as well. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker this morning. It's Julie Teigland, and she's the Managing Partner for Europe, Middle East and Africa from EY. Julie, over to you.
Good morning, good morning. How are you? Seriously? In this room, in this giant room of bundled competence, all I get is a, So how are you? All right. I don't think it's possible for us to think of a conference on innovation without a little enthusiasm and excitement for what we're going to do. Am I right? All right, so if we're going to start off again, I'm going to try one more time. How are you? Are you excited? All right. Listen, my name is Julie Teigland. I lead EY for Europe, Middle East, India, and Africa. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I can say that I'm incredibly excited. There are so many challenges in the world today. It's unbelievable. The world is really struggling with how do we manage with all of the volatility that we have. And we have so many questions. How do we respond to the geopolitical challenges and the turbulence? How do we harness technology in the right way? How do we build the journey towards decarbonization? You know, how do we demand or meet the demand for public services in an affordable manner? And at the same time, across the world, in the year 2024, more than half the world's population is going through elections. And so we see change coming, maybe not all over, but change coming, and that includes at the level of the EU Parliament. How do you deal with challenges in that period of change and volatility? At EY, our purpose is around building a better working world, and I know that the challenges that we have, decarbonization, public demand for services, geopolitics, I know one thing for certain: they're challenges that we cannot deal with alone. We need everyone in this room, but every one of our stakeholders at the table to consider how we do that. And I'm going to tell you, that they're also not going to be doing it alone with just the power of putting human at the center, but adding the power of technology to that to really make a difference. And that speaks of the power of innovation. True innovation can never be done in isolation. True innovation means public, private, the thinkers, academics, entrepreneurs, an entire ecosystem coming together. This conference is incredibly powerful because it's bringing together those ecosystems. And you see that outside in the stands around. You're going to hear that in the agenda. I'm really proud as EY to be part of that ecosystem of bringing people together, fostering innovation, public and private. And we've done some amazing work. We've had the privilege to work with government on so many transformation programs, like supporting the Prime Minister and hosting the first Global AI Safety Summit, like, for example, acting as the advisors to the flagship on the carbon capture program for net zero. Or how about digitalizing the single trade window to really enable export and exports to SMEs? Some fantastic examples of innovation in the public sector with private collaboration. Now, when I look across this room, I see so many faces from people across the globe. All of us together have a huge opportunity now to take great strides forward at this conference. Great strides in terms of sharing our insights and ideas to make us more powerful than we are at this moment when we leave this conference. And it's in the spirit of this partnership, in this collaboration, that EY comes to this conference. Every day we work with organizations across the globe and across this sector. Over the next 2 days, you're going to hear us in that spirit of partnership share insights. We're going to listen together, share perspectives. I'm going to ask each and every one of you to engage with questions and comments, looking to harness the innovation that we as business can help drive. We're incredibly proud to help convene this group, incredibly proud to be here, and I wish you all a fantastic conference, but it's only going to be as good as each one of you make it. If you're engaged, if you're all in, you're going to walk away with something valuable coming out. And so my question to you is the same question I started with. Are you all in? Are you ready? Oh my God, do we have to practice again? Seriously. One more time. Are you all in? I can't think of a better run-up for the next speaker. Thank you all. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. I think Julie set the challenge there, that level of energy we want to see throughout the whole 2 days. And also you've summarized brilliantly, I think, what the next 2 days are all about. So how can we bring the best of the public sector, the private sector, academia, the charity sector together, working together on new innovations and harnessing technology to really meet those challenges that we are facing in our day-to-day work. Thank you so much, Julie, for setting the scene. And now I would like to introduce, he's probably very familiar to most of you who are in the room here. It's fantastic that we can grab you in your last couple of weeks before you leave, Alex. So Alex Chisholm, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Civil Service and the Permanent Secretary in the Cabinet Office, who will give us the first keynote speech. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you, Julie. Welcome, everybody. Great to see you all. And this seems to be a sellout event, so we'll try and live up to your expectations, turning up this morning. I woke up this morning feeling extremely excited. How could you not, to be going to a global conference on innovation, but also with something else that you may have noticed already, a bit of a sore throat. So I'm a teeny bit croaky this morning. You'll have to bear with me a little bit for that. But, you know, Kermit the Frog was innovative in his day, so innovation comes in surprising areas. So look, first of all, it's great, I think, to be here in this amazing conference venue. Last year we were in the center of town. This year, bigger, better, longer, 2-day event, lots more space, lots more attendees. It's obviously becoming a really big event now that people want to make a point of coming to in the global calendar, so that is great. we are very proud in the UK government to be hosting here in London, this fabulous city, and to be focusing on innovation. And you're here because you know innovation is where it's at. It's the most important thing to be thinking about. Last month, I heard someone describe the 2020s as a restless decade. And I think that is rather a good way of looking at it. We're not yet halfway through, so probably we can't give it its final naming rights, but a global pandemic, war in Europe, economic crises, and ever more pressing challenges for global security. That feels very restless, and these conditions have met their symptoms in record-breaking military spending, social unrest, accelerating global movement of people, and ongoing disruption to global trade. And the challenges are wider still. Climate change remains, if you'll excuse the pun, a burning problem, and as the environmental effects extend, the economic impacts are increasing, as will the demographic shifts as climate change pushes migration trends yet further. And of course, we are living through ever more rapid period of technological change. And while this, of course, can help us to manage many of these challenges, it also brings disruption and uncertainty. A recent survey showed that 71% of Americans are keen to slow down adoption of artificial intelligence amid fears for job losses and more severe security threats. A couple of months ago, I was in Singapore at the Global Government Summit, also organized by Global Government Forum, and I spoke to a number of the attendees, some of whom are here today. I think Leo Yip is here from Singapore, Taima Peterkop from Estonia, and other colleagues. And we actually had quite a kind of consensus, despite the very different countries we all come from, the situations we're in, about where were the big five challenges facing the world at the moment, which transcend national boundaries. And number one was climate, of course, security, technological change, demographic change, and investment. And those five things we felt were going to be not just important in that month we were together in this year, but for decades to come, and they affect all of us. And how well we manage those will be a key determinant about how well we succeed as governments in living up to the needs and expectations of our citizens. Climate mitigation is obviously a supremely global effect, and a global effort is required to deal with it. And it's going to become more pressing as deadlines come closer, and we need to meet collectively agreed goals becomes more and more intense. And all the while, heightened weather extremes will present new economic risks and may exacerbate migration flows. And as we've seen in the ongoing situation in the Red Sea and the continuing fallout from the war in Ukraine, the global security picture carries with it its own shocks to trade, to economic and energy security, and to the balance of public finances. And those purse strings are ever tighter. The IMF puts the average debt-to-GDP ratio at 62%, with many countries, including the US, UK, Japan, Singapore, and Italy, above 100%. Tax burdens already seem on the high side historically. The OECD average tax-to-GDP ratio stands at 34%, and the UK now slightly above that. And yet the pressures to spend are growing, not just on defense, of course, and on net zero efforts because of those big challenges we face. But we're not alone in the UK in having a lot of catch-up to do with some of our infrastructure. The pipeline we've just published shows we need to spend £200 billion, and other countries are also investing very heavily and necessarily in big infrastructure projects. All these factors are both drivers of change and necessitate it. We literally cannot continue like this. Citizens agree, and it's a common problem for governments worldwide, that trust in the state has fallen significantly. A recent Ipsos Mori survey shows that across 28 countries, an average 64% of the population feel that the traditional parties and politicians do not have their interests at heart. And Edelman, who's been running this long-running trust barometer, again on a global basis, shows the same picture of diminishing trust in government. Here in the UK, 75% feel that public services are likely to decline over the coming years. And the UN average trust in government has fallen to 36%. Throwing more money at the problem alone doesn't appear to be the solution. UK healthcare expenditure has grown on average 6% a year since 1998, and the ONS assess it, that's the Office of National Statistics, they assess that as 9% less productive on a quality-adjusted basis since the same point. So how do we deal with this lack of trust, this sense of disillusionment? Well, one option is to renew and improve the ways in which governments engage with citizens, improving the core services that we deliver, but also in listening more actively to citizen needs and responding accordingly. Increased satisfaction with a government service directly contributes to trust in government, with a 1 percentage point improvement correlating with a 2 percentage point increase in trust, according to an international study by McKinsey last year. So we need to do things more competently, more efficiently, that holy grail of do more with less. We need, in other words, to be innovative. Last year, when I opened Innovation 2023, I said we needed 3 things to support innovation: long-term investment, empowerment, and a properly recognized urgent and collective need. Well, I think we can give a big tick on the last one, but how are we feeling on the first 2? Money has become more expensive and therefore scarcer in most countries around the world, and in more anxious and constrained times, empowerment might feel like a luxury. So allow me to revise these, at least in part. The 5 global challenges I set out earlier have a common theme, and that is uncertainty. And it's the responsibility of government to deal with the 1,000 natural shocks a state will ordinarily face. But in this restless decade, the risks of myopia are significant. So long-term foresight and investment, while certainly desirable, is at present harder to come by, with difficult choices being made about regular spend, let alone some of the bets necessary for deep innovation. And where there are real and pressing challenges which require urgent attention, it's all too easy to spend too much time coping with them rather than focusing on the need to change underlying approaches. So in this context, long-term investment perhaps needs to be recalibrated. It's the end goal, yes, but its greatest benefits are in predictability and commitment to a course of action. And lessons can be learned here from the venture capital style approach taken in the COVID-19 vaccine work. Small-scale investment initially supports experimentation at a seed stage, with further funding reserved to scale initiatives which show real promise. Not all bets will pay off, and this means some attrition is inevitable, but a carefully structured approach picks and supports proven winners without overburdening the wider ecosystem. Quick and easy solutions are unlikely to be genuine or lasting. If a problem was easily fixed, it would have been. I often feel during the end of a working day, and I think of some of the problems I've been trying to wrestle with, and think, gosh, they've been so difficult, and I feel occasionally tired by that. Some of you may sympathize with that. And then someone said, yeah, but if they were easy problems, then someone else would have dealt with them. They've come your way because they are harder ones, and then you feel a bit better about the job you're doing. And that's probably true of a lot of government work as well. The easy problems don't come our way. We have to deal with genuinely hard ones. And politics, which partly because of the media cycle, at times reacts and addresses events within the span of a single day or even a single hour. The Prime Minister in the UK was criticised last week for delaying a response by 2 hours, as if you're expected to have a response every minute of every day. And yet sometimes you have to be able to adapt to grasp problems whose half-life for solution may be measured in units of years or even decades. And those of us who are civil servants and public servants, I suspect probably the majority of people in this room today, that's part of our job, is to take that long-term stewardship view and to not just get through the day or to the end of the week, but to try and look at those more distant and important and vital problems that we need to deal with and to find working solutions for them. Trying to take that more long-term, multi-stage funding approach in the UK, just to give an example of that, is the One Login program. And if you'll hear some more about that tomorrow, I think, as in the agenda. But that was something where all of government, as you all know, is digital government. And you can't really do digital government without a really powerful and effective and trusted digital identity system. And One Login is the one we've developed in the UK. And that went from a gleam in the eye when I started about 4 years ago to a very successful and proven system now currently used by 5 million people. And over the next year, that will go to 25 million. And every other country represented here. Many have already very successful digital identity schemes, Denmark, Singapore, to mention just two. Everyone's going to need one of those, and trying to make those big long-term investments in those type of schemes is incredibly important. So that was investment. How about empowerment? That too, I think, is something that we should try and perhaps take a more nuanced view of. Not every problem is soluble at a local level. And even if a local authority had the capability to build a brilliant new system to handle correspondence or casework, we'd want those benefits spread across all such organizations, and that requires more join-up and coordination. Here in London, there are tens of different systems for paying council tax, depending on which council you live in. So I think empowerment is good to try and experiment, of course, to try and encourage the groundswell of new ideas coming up across the whole country in which you live in, but also the ability, if you like, from the top and the center to swoop down and say, yes, that is really good, let's everyone use that, because that's critical to getting the economies of scale that you need. And of course, we need to look beyond the public sector too. Siobhan in her intro highlighted some of the knowledge partners here today and the brilliant firms who are represented at this conference, and we can talk with them and hear from them as part of this. And I think that's incredibly important as well. I'm always very conscious, having worked in the private sector, that government is big, but it's not that big. It's a small part of the overall economy in most of the countries we live in. And the ability to work really efficiently and well with the private sector, public-private partnerships, that is absolutely vital. I was very intrigued to see that Edelman, I mentioned the Edelman Trust Index, they have found that the public particularly expect and trust public-private partnerships, so that's what they want from us. They are trusted more highly than the public alone or the private alone, so the partnership aspect of that is reassuring, and I think the public are right about that, as in so many things. So this program of renewal I've been talking about, it requires hard work, and that partnership is a part of it. And in recent years, business trust in government has fallen, not least because of the changes in certainty, reduced certainty, and the pressures of the pandemic and other changes that we've been making. And I think that government's going to need to work harder to kind of rebuild that kind of confidence and clarity which businesses expect. But I think that businesses also need to cut government a little bit of slack sometimes and realize that governments are actually very good at listening to their citizens, much better than businesses are, and that a lot of the situations we have to deal with are also exogenous and not things we've just made on our own, and businesses need to get used to change as being a constant in their dealings with government. Trying to find that ability to adapt for the situation while pursuing long-term valuable goals, that is the nature of that public-private partnership. I think all of us are here partly to learn new things, so we understand very well the need to adapt our skills. But also to put into practice things which have been developed in laboratories or in theoretical papers or models and are now becoming a practical part of our day-to-day life. Thinking again about the conference we had last year, we were talking there very excitedly about artificial intelligence. And when we held this conference, OpenAI's GPT-4 had just been released, and there was a lot of excitement, but also we were talking about future applications. Now, a year on, that's moved from being something that's being talked about to being used. Just last month, in my department in the UK government, the Cabinet Office, we had an all-staff event with thousands of people there. And we were not just talking, but actually demonstrating tools being used across the Cabinet Office now to support policy development, to manage public consultations, to offer a portal now that can enable citizens to report issues on the streets in real time. So we've moved from kind of talking about AI to using it, and that's incredibly exciting because AI has so much potential to transform the way in which we work and the efficiency of that. Often in government, because the scale at which we operate and the need to avoid making lasting mistakes and the high level of public accountability and transparency can make the effort to improve things a little bit incremental. AI offers a way to offer big leaps forward. Just to mention a couple of figures there, Boston Consulting Group have been doing a big study on productivity gains. They think 20 to 40% productivity gains arising from things like case management and customer services. McKinsey go further and saying that generative AI has the potential to automate 60 to 70% of today's work activities, freeing up time to focus on more productive thought work. So realizing these gains, which in the UK alone we assess to be worth up to £24 billion a year, is a true test of what is required to make innovation work in the public sector. It requires a clear strategy for implementation, wide-scale coordination to focus efforts and avoid duplication, financial commitment to support projects and scale them up, an effective and joined-up approach to industry engagement and procurement, and a deep source of technical skills to build and scale tools, and the understanding more widely to use them. And of course, we don't want to get carried away in this bubble of excitement. We need to be cautious, properly speaking, and recognize the responsibilities for using AI as well. AI it clearly does not offer a silver bullet for innovation, but it does offer a lot of hope. There is no unique structure for organizational design, no unique investment strategy that will bring about innovation. It does require constant searching effort, a lack of acceptance that things as they are should remain so. What we can hope, though, is that we can collectively work at the base conditions that are most likely to bring it about. And that's one of the main reasons that the prospects of AI is so exciting. Removing time-consuming admin tasks, we free up greater time to think creatively about the means of innovating further. Now, some of you, well, in fact, all of you will now know, because Siobhan mentioned it, that I'm going to be finishing shortly, in fact, next week. And if there's a regret there, it will be that I won't be around to see these efforts pay off. But I have been lucky in my time to have seen other forms of innovation come good. Just reflecting for a moment on my final words on this, I did arrive in the Cabinet Office 4 years ago in the depths of the first wave of the pandemic. And the diligence, the openness to change, the sheer ingenuity of civil servants in the UK and worldwide was on full display right from the start. And the results are evident in the push for vaccine delivery, the recalibration of healthcare services, the pivot to remote working, the support for vulnerable persons. We all achieved so much change against the odds, and something that I hope that everyone feels enormously proud of. And it's striking how transferable some of those initiatives have been. In the UK, we've had a big program of trying to relocate civil servants outside of Greater London towards the rest of the UK. 16,000 roles already moved. And that was made possible by our ability to work both remotely and in a hybrid fashion that we learned during COVID. And our approach to real-time data analysis, hosted in the Cabinet Office's own National Situation Centre, had its origins in the need for the in-the-moment data on healthcare, movement of people and vaccine rollout. It now services a range of needs from national security to extreme weather and provides critical support in anticipating and managing crises. Now, we've had a few crises, and we could hope the coming years will be less eventful than those we have seen since I returned to government. But my experience teaches me that these remarkable changes and experiences are unlikely to settle down anytime soon. Not all of it, in fact, not a lot has been easy, but all of it has been interesting, and most of it worthwhile. And seeing conferences like these, with this amazing community of people who are really passionate about innovation, working across the public sector, the ideas and the enthusiasm you all bring to tackling whatever challenges may come, I feel the same optimism that has seen me through the last 8 years in government. It's the same optimism that over time has made London this great world city of 1 million businesses, 3.5 million homes, and over £500 billion flowing through it, all fueled by 1 trillion dreams. We have to make it work, and we will. Nothing could be more urgent or more certain. And I'm delighted you are all here to share thoughts on how to do just that. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Alex. That's a good note for you to end on. We have to make it work, I think. So a couple of points there. The restless decade that you mentioned, so a series of crises that we've had, like the pandemic, like the conflicts that we're experiencing around the world, but also those underlying challenges still there of climate change, of changing demographics, and we really have to meet all of those challenges. As you said, when budgets are tight, how do you decide your investments? Do you focus on those short-term investments, but actually still look at that long-term stewardship role that we all hold in the civil service? And then stressing what we've already heard about the importance of collaboration across sectors. And then finally, I think a theme which is going to be huge throughout the next 2 days is how do we, as a public sector, fully embrace AI? What does that mean for our skills, for our workforce? How do we manage the opportunities, but also some of the risks that brings? Thank you so much, Alex, and I hope your voice holds up, because I think we'll be digging deeper into AI in the final session this evening. So I would like to introduce our last speaker of the morning session to give us the keynote address from EY, and that's Catherine Friday, who is the EY Global Government and Public Sector Leader. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Siobhan, and good morning, everyone. It's absolutely fabulous to be here. And in thinking about embracing the future and how we innovate for the future, I'd actually like to take us back just a minute and contextualise us in the past. So, the Royal Victoria Dock opened for trade in 1855. Built out of marshland, its construction required vision, complex engineering, and the work of many, many men and machines. 13 metres deep and serviced by a giant ship lock, the dock boasted the latest technology in dockside cranes and services. It was the first dock in London built to accommodate large ironclad steamships. There we go. These vessels were propelled by the latest advances in steam power and were built to exploit the increased trade opportunities brought by the expansion of the British Empire. Royal Victoria was the first of what would turn out to be 7 enclosed docks within the Port of London. Linked to a new and expanding railway network, the docks handled hundreds of thousands of cargoes of fruit, vegetables, grain, tobacco and meat, which were uploaded onto the quayside and stored in giant granaries and refrigerated warehouses. Business boomed. Jobs were created and new settlements were built close by to house the workers. But in time, 7 docks turned out to be far too many. Within 30 years, oversupply crippled the dock companies. Low financial returns meant a lack of investment. At a time of rapid advances in technology, the ports became out of date and inefficient. In 1900, a Royal Commission examined the future of the docks, and a few years later, Parliament passed the Port of London Act, and the Port of London Authority was created. It began a program of modernisation to make the docks fit for the new 20th century. For more than half of that century, the docks thrived again. But the rise of containerised shipping and new trade patterns meant that, by the 1970s, the docks' fortunes again declined, and this time for good. In 1981, the Royal Victoria saw off her last vessel. That same year, the UK government established the London Docklands Development Corporation with a mission to generate the area. The Docklands Light Railway, fully automated and with no drivers needed to drive the trains, opened in 1987. The Canary Wharf Business District was created, and nearby an inner-city airport. Today, on the site of the Royal Victoria Dock, you can take the cable car from Greenwich. You can visit the London Assembly, housed in one of the world's greenest buildings. You can stay at the Sunbourne, a luxury floating hotel. And of course, you can attend events at the Excel Conference Centre. because the ground we are now standing or sitting on is the very same patch fashioned from marshland and turned into the Royal Victoria Dock nearly 170 years ago. Why do we share this story? Because I think it says something really important and has some really relevant messages for us here today about harnessing shifts in global forces, about partnership between government and enterprise, about opportunity and forward thinking, about innovation, about optimism. I'm delighted to be here this week to explore innovation in the public sector. Looking at the world today, from demographics to climate, geopolitics to economics, we know that global trends are making life challenging for governments. But I believe we have cause for optimism, because some of this century's other trends have prepared the ground for even more innovation in the public sector. In the year 2000, just 5% of the world's population used the internet. Of course, today, 2/3 of our 8.1 billion people are online. Much of this progress has been achieved through growth in the use of mobile devices. In 2000, there were fewer than 750 million mobile phone subscriptions in the world. Now, 5 billion of us have access. In the EU, the percentage of populated areas with 5G network coverage increased from 14% of households in 2021 to 82% last year. And then, of course, there's the sheer explosion in the amount of data. 90% of the world's data was generated just in the last 2 years. This expansion of technology, connectivity, and data allows us to reimagine how we provide services to citizens. In the EU, 58% of people used the internet for interaction with public authorities in 2018, and in the last 5 years, this figure has risen to 74%. As we look to build on these achievements, we remind ourselves that technology, of course, is not the silver bullet. It's only the answer if it's applied in innovative ways to address real-life, practical problems. How can it be used to better manage public finance so there's enough money to invest in the right public services and programs? How can it help fund, speed up, and manage infrastructure projects? How can it help decarbonise the economy? And how can it make public service more responsive and more personal for every citizen? We are beginning to see the answers to some of these questions. Here in the UK, the National Health Service rolled out a new artificial intelligence tool in 2022 that detects heart disease in just 20 seconds in an MRI scanner. Around 120,000 heart MRI scans are performed every year just here in the UK, and the use of AI will help with the backlog of vital health heart care. The UAE government has adopted an app that uses AI and blockchain to store the data of people wishing to donate their organs after death. It features a vast database of organ donors and potential recipients throughout the UAE, which are linked to licensed public and private hospitals. Singapore enables people to measure vital medical signs at home with a smart system. Care teams can remotely monitor the data and quickly provide care when it's required. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indian government launched a WhatsApp chatbot to provide people with accurate and timely information. It answered more than 1 billion queries, catering for citizens in English and native languages right across that vast country. Education is a big passion of mine. I take great interest in how technology is starting to transform the education experience. This month, the education in South Korea's capital, Seoul, is introducing AI-enabled robots to aid English language education in some of the city's schools. The chatbot allows students to practice conversations via their mobile phones. At the end of last year, the French government announced the launch of an AI-based tool to evaluate students' performance in French, and maths, and then provide personalised exercises to help them progress in these subjects. Around 800,000 high school students in France will be able to use the tool by September this year. Here, in the UK, 6-Bit Education has developed an AI-powered platform that learns educators' grading methods, eliminates the need for repetitive grading, and offers personalised feedback for students. As global leader for EY's government and public sector business, I take great pride in the impact we make by working alongside government organisations as they innovate with technology. The Indian school system is one of the largest in the world, with more than 260 million students and 9.5 million teachers. While previous efforts to close learning gaps had only partially succeeded, they did not achieve progress at anywhere near the pace or scale required to lift the whole country forward. So in 2017, India launched a digital platform called Diksha, which can be accessed by learners and teachers right across the whole country and is available in 36 separate languages. The platform provides access to digital content through QR codes printed in 600 million digital textbooks. It also delivers in-class resources, teacher training content, and assessment aids. Crucially, Diksha policies and tools make it possible for the education ecosystem to use a common platform to achieve learning goals at scale for the whole country. EY has been involved with the Diksha platform since its inception, working alongside India's Ministry of Education and a large number of other agencies. Since its adoption, the platform has delivered digital teacher training courses for more than 7 million teachers and rolled out 5,000 courses to 180 million students. That's teachers' careers enhanced, it's Indian students' learning accelerated, and young lives transformed across the whole country. When homeless people in Maidstone, not that far from here, soared by nearly 60% over 5 years, the Borough Council sought to shift its focus from crisis response to early intervention and prevention. Working with EY and our UK technology partner Xantura, the Council created a data-focused tool called OneView. OneView's predictive analytic and language generation capabilities meant local agencies could bring together data to identify residents who were at risk of homelessness and then intervene before these vulnerable people were actually living on the street. In the pilot year, almost 100 households were prevented from becoming homeless. And overall, the rate of homelessness itself fell by 40%. These are all brilliant examples of innovation because they provide practical answers to pressing questions. How do we improve health outcomes? How do we better educate our children? How do we tackle homelessness? But they are also successful because they improve people's lives. This is how AI can help more people live healthier for longer. This is how AI can help young people increase their life chances through access to learning. This is how data and analytics can help more people keep a roof over their head. They are successful because they're putting humans at the centre of decision-making, at the centre of innovation. Successful public sector innovation is about improving public services and outcomes for people and communities. But it is also, of course, about transparency and accountability over the ways that new technology and new ideas are applied, so that innovation goes hand in hand with building public confidence. Again, it's about putting humans at the centre. When the docks were created out of marshland, right here, 170 years ago, a new story began in this part of London. A story about taking advantage of global trends and innovating with new technology. But also a story about jobs, homes, communities, leisure, tourism. A story about people. I look forward to the next 2 days as we explore new ways to improve public services so the lives of the people we serve and the communities we all live in get better. As Thomas Edison said, there's a way to do it better. find it. Let's go ahead and find it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I love the way that you wrap that in the history of the Docklands here, showing that although it might feel unusual, this phase we're going through, actually a lot of the things we've been through before in terms of how it impacts on people, on skills, on employment. But some of the other things I picked up there that you talked about, picking up again on, I think what Alex said about trust, a lot of people fearful about AI, but you've given us some great case studies of how AI and new technology can really make a huge difference to people's lives and the way we deliver services across all policy areas, health, education, housing, social policies as well. And just that huge explosion in a really short space of time of technology and the access that people have to mobile devices and to the internet as well. Lots of food for thought there. But I love that you ended there, because I think and I hope this was come out in a lot of the sessions. It's always about humans at the center of what we are doing, and I don't think we can lose sight of that.